The stars were silent. The universe had always been full of voices, messages from ships, colonies, empires. But now, for Zira, it was dead quiet. She sat in the control room of her ship, a small shuttle lost in the deep void of space. Her hands trembled as she pressed the signal button again. A soft beep echoed. The same message repeated for the 100th time. "This is Zira of Valora Prime. We are under attack. Please, anyone, help us. Our world is falling." Her voice played across the dark radio waves, but no answer came. The signal was set to broadcast on every known frequency in every known language. She had sent it to the Galactic Council, to the merchant guilds, even to the pirate clans. She had begged, pleaded, offered riches, alliances, anything, but nobody replied. Her people, the Valorans, had lived in peace for centuries. They had no armies, no warships. They were builders, healers, dreamers. But when the Skarn Empire invaded, peace meant nothing. The Skarn didn't want peace. They wanted control. Now, Valora Prime burned. Zira closed her eyes. In her mind, she saw the giant, black ships of the Skarn hovering over her homeworld. She saw the cities in flames, the sky black with smoke. She saw her people running, screaming. She heard the sounds of weapons. She didn't understand weapons that tore cities apart in seconds. And she saw her parents, her friends, left. Behind, she pressed the signal button again. "Please, anyone." Her voice cracked. There was a time when she believed the galaxy was full of kindness, that if someone asked for help, someone would come. But the galaxy had made its choice. It called her people weak, useless, not worth saving. The powerful races cared only for power. The rich cared only for profit, and nobody came. Zira leaned back in her chair. Her heart pounded slowly, like a dying drumbeat. She stared at the cold stars outside her ship's window. Maybe this is how it ends, she thought, alone. But then, the console beeped. Not her transmission, a reply. Her heart jumped. She stared at the flashing light on the panel. She reached out with shaking fingers and pressed the button. A voice spoke. "Valoran ship, we heard you." The voice was calm, deep, and strange. It wasn't Valoran. It wasn't Skarn. It wasn't any of the council languages. Zira felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She opened the channel. Who is this?" There was a short silence. Then the voice answered, "We are human." Zira's eyes widened. Human, the word hit her like a shock. She had heard of them. Stories whispered in the darker corners of the galaxy. They weren't part of the Galactic Council, weren't part of any known empire. They were something else. Some called them mercenaries. Others called them monsters. Some said they were a myth, a violent primitive species from the edge of the known universe. But now, one of them was speaking to her. "You heard my signal?" she asked. Her voice thin. "Yes," the voice replied. "We're coming. Coming." Zira's hands tightened on the console. "Wait. Why? I have nothing to offer. My people, we have nothing left." Another pause, and the voice said something that made her blood run cold. "We don't care about your people. We care about the Skarn." Zira's mouth went dry. You want to fight the Skarn?" "Yes." She shook her head. "But why would you help me?" the voice replied, almost like a whisper. "Because the Skarn think they ruled this galaxy. It's time they learned they don't." Zira stared. At the console, she didn't know whether to feel hope or fear. The voice continued. "Send us your coordinates and prepare to leave your ship." Zira's heart thudded in her chest. "Leave, but where am I going?" "To us," the voice said. "We're closer than you think." Her hand hovered over the transmission button. Was this real? Was this a trick? But then, did it matter? The council had abandoned her. Skarn would kill her, at least, humans answered. Zira sent the coordinates. A few minutes passed. She sat in silence, staring at the cold emptiness outside. Her ship drifted alone between dead stars. Then, something moved. At first, it was a shade or a ripple in the dark. Then, a shape appeared. Long, sharp, black as space itself. Ship it didn't shine. It didn't hum with energy like the Skarn ships. It was silent. Like a ghost, it appeared. Out of nowhere, Zira's breath caught in her throat. She had seen many ships in her life. Traders, cruisers, warships. But this was different. It was like the void itself had come alive. The human ship sent a message: prepare for boarding. Zira stood up. Her legs felt weak. She moved to the airlock, grabbing the small pack she had carried since her escape. What am I doing? She thought. She could barely breathe, but something inside her, a small voice, whispered, "What choice do you have?" The airlock door opened with a hiss, and they came. 3 figures in black armor stepped inside. Their suits were marked with strange symbols, nothing Zira recognized. Their faces were hidden behind dark helmets. One of them stepped forward, a tall figure holding a weapon Zira had never seen before. He looked at her, visor reflecting her pale face. "Zira," the voice asked through a speaker. She nodded. "You're coming with us." She opened her mouth. No words came. The human turned slightly, as if listening to something in his helmet. Then, without another word, he reached out a hand. She took it. His grip was firm. They moved fast. No talking, no waiting. Within minutes, Zira stood on the human ship. The air felt colder, the lights dimmer. Everything seemed sharp. She turned to the human. "Why did you answer me?" she whispered. The human looked at her for a long moment. Then in a low voice he said, "Because nobody else would." The words hit harder than she expected. They didn't promise safety. They didn't promise friendship, but they answered. The human led her through the ship. She saw more figures in black armor, silent and watchful. They moved like shadows, not like soldiers, but hunters. Finally, they reached a room. Inside was a table with a glowing map, the Skarn Empire, her world, and something else, a symbol she didn't know, a human mark. The man turned to her. "We're going after the Skarn," he said, "but you're going to help us." Zira stared. At him? Me. He nodded. "You have something we need?" Her heart pounded. "What?" The man leaned closer. "Your hatred." Zira felt a cold fire rise in her chest. She didn't know these humans. She didn't trust them, but they didn't turn away. They didn't. "Call her weak," they answered. And maybe, just maybe, that meant something. The human ship turned in the void. Engines lighting up like silent flames. Behind them, Valora Prime burned. Ahead, a war waited, and Zira was no longer alone. Zira sat in a metal chair inside the human ship. The walls around her were dark steel. The air smelled clean but sharp, like ice and smoke. She kept her hands on her lap, staring at the table in front of her. A human soldier stood near the door. Silent, unmoving. His armor made no sound. She was not their guest. She felt more like a prisoner. The door slid open. A man walked in. No helmet. Short brown hair, rough face, with a scar on his chin. His eyes sharp and cold locked onto her. He pulled a chair and sat down. "I'm Commander Rake," he said. His voice was flat. "You're Zira." She gave a small nod. Rake leaned forward. His eyes didn't blink. "You sent a signal. Begged for help. And we answered." Zira felt her throat dry up. "Why?" Rake smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Because we need you." She frowned. "I have nothing. My world is dead. My people. They're dying. I can't give you anything." Rake shook his head slowly. "You can give us one thing." "What?" He leaned closer. "Your access." Zira blinked. "Access." Rake tapped the table. A holomap appeared, a spinning image of space. Her world marked in red. Next to it was a symbol of the Skarn Empire. "You're from Valora Prime. Your people are part of the trade accord. You have a level of clearance most races don't. You can get into places we can't. Zira shook her head. I'm no spy. Rake didn't smile. You will be. Her heart stopped. You want me to spy for you? Rake nodded once. We want you to help us bring down the Skarn. Zira stared at him, stunned. Why me? Why not someone trained? I'm just a survivor, Rake said, cutting her off. That's why. Opened her mouth, but no words came. He continued. We watched the Skarn burn your world. We saw you escape. You're the only Valoran who got out alive. That makes you useful. Zira felt like she couldn't breathe. So you saved me just because you needed a tool? Rake's eyes narrowed. We saved you because we need someone who hates the Skarn enough to fight them, do you? She looked down at her hands. They trembled. Did she? She thought of the black ships, the screaming, the fires, her people. Gone. She looked up, her eyes burning. Yes. Rake nodded slowly. Good. He stood. We'll train you. You'll learn fast. Or you'll die. Our enemies don't care if you're a soldier or a scared girl. Out there, you survive. Or you don't. Zero stared at him. And if I say no? Rake's face became hard as stone. Then we put you back in your shuttle. You can float in space until the Skarn finds you. Or your air runs out. She froze. Her heart beat loud in her ears. Was this a rescue or a trap? But deep inside, she already knew the answer. Neither this was a deal. The humans didn't come to save her. They came because they saw a weapon in her pain. Zira took a deep breath. I'll do it. Rake gave a single nod. You start now. He turned and walked out. The guard by the door motioned for her to follow. Zira stood, her legs shaky. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of something darker. They led her down cold halls, past humans in black armor. Some nodded. To her, some stared with hard eyes. None smiled. Finally, she entered a small room. A woman waited inside, dressed in a dark suit, her black hair tied tight. She held a strange device in her hand. I'm Vex, the woman said. Her voice was sharp like glass. I'm going to teach you how to live. Zira opened her mouth. Vex raised a hand. First lesson, don't speak unless it's useful. Zira swallowed her words. Vex tossed her the device. Zira caught it awkwardly. It was cold and heavy, a small, sleek weapon. Nothing like the ones her people used. That's a shock pistol, Vex said. It's illegal in most systems. Silent, deadly. You'll learn how to use it before the day ends. Zira stared at it. I don't know how. Vex smiled. It wasn't. Friendly, you will. Training began. Hours passed in a blur. Vex taught her how to hold the weapon, how to shoot, how to move without sound. She learned how to hide in shadows, how to lie with a straight face, how to use her small size to sneak through places bigger people couldn't, and how to kill. By the end of the day, Zara's hand stopped shaking when she held the pistol. Her arms ached, her legs felt like stone, but she didn't fall. Vex nodded. Slightly, not bad for a beginner. Zira met her eyes. Why are you teaching me? Vex's face didn't change, because someone taught me, and because you'll be useful if you survive. Zira felt something strange inside her chest. Was this how humans saw the galaxy? Not in friends or enemies, but in threats and tools. Wasn't sure, but she wasn't about to die alone in space. Night fell on the human Shipor. What counted as night? The lights dimmed. The hum of the engines stayed low and steady. Zira sat in her small bunk. She stared at the shock pistol lying beside her. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a killer. But maybe. Now, she was something else. Her mind drifted to her family. Her friends, her world, they were gone. And these humans, they didn't come to save her. They came to use her. But for the first time, someone answered her call. And that meant everything, eh? Soft knock sounded on her door. Zira stood up and opened it. Commander Rake stood outside. Arms crossed. We leave in 1 hour, he said. First mission, her heart pounded. Where? He gave a thin smile into the heart of the enemy. Zira felt a chill run down her spine. Rake leaned in slightly. You asked for help. We gave you a chance. Don't waste it. He turned and walked away. Zira stared after him. A chance. She closed the door and picked up the pistol. This was her chance to survive, to fight, to make sure the galaxy never forgot Valora Prime, and maybe to become something more. The human ship changed course, engines roaring softly in the dark. Zero strapped on her gear, heart racing. The war had begun, and this time she was coming for them. Zira pressed her back against the cold wall of the corridor. The air smelled of oil and metal. In her hand, the shock pistol felt heavier than before. This was not a training drill. This was real. She could hear footsteps sharp, heavy boots echoing in the hall ahead. The enemy, the Skarn. Zero swallowed hard. She forced herself to breathe slow and quiet. Beside her, crouched low in the shadows, was Shade. That wasn't his real name. No one told her his real name. The humans called him Shade, because that's what he moved like a shadow. He wore the same black armor, marked with strange white symbols. His helmet covered his face, his rifle long and silent. He turned his head slightly toward her. His voice came soft in her earpiece. Wait for my signal. Zero nodded, though her hands trembled. This was her first mission. The plan had sounded simple. Infiltrate a Skarn supply station. Plant a tracking beacon. Get out. But now, nothing felt simple. They were deep inside enemy territory. One wrong move, they were dead. Zira risked a glance around the corner. 2 Skarn soldiers stood guard. Tall, armored, with long rifles and sharp helmets like blades. Their voices sounded harsh and guttural as they spoke to each other in low growls. Zira felt her heart hammer against her ribs. There was no way past them. She looked at Shade. What do we do? She whispered. Shade's voice was calm, almost bored. We wait. Zira blinked. For what? He turned his helmet toward her, for them to die. Before she could speak, he moved. 1 second, he was crouched. The next, he was gone. A black blur in the shadows. Zira gasped. The first Skarn didn't even see him. A silent flash, and the alien dropped. Thin red line across his throat. The second turned. Opened his mouth, a soft thud. A thin blade buried deep in his throat. Both collapsed soundlessly. Shade wiped his blade. Let's go. Zira stared at him, stunned. He walked past her like nothing happened. Her legs moved before her mind did. She followed him down the hall, stepping over the bodies. No alarms. No sounds. The Skarn were dead before they knew they were under attack. Zira felt a chill run through her body. She had heard stories of human fighters that they didn't fight fair, that they didn't fight clean. Now, she believed it. They reached the control room. The door was locked, thick steel with glowing red panels. Shade crouched beside it. Tapping on a small device in his hand, Zira whispered, "What are you doing?" "Breaking in," Shade said flatly. She frowned. "I thought we were planting a beacon." "We are. But first," the door hissed open. Shade slipped inside without a sound. Zira followed, heart pounding. The room was empty, except for 1 Skarn officer. He turned at the sound. Shade's rifle was already up. A soft click, the Skarn dropped. A neat hole between his eyes. Zira froze. She stared at the dead officer on the floor. Her hand shook again. Shade spoke, voice calm. "Control. Center's ours." He moved to the panel, placing a small black box on it. Lights blinked. Their Shade said, "Beacon planted. We'll never know." Zira finally found her voice. "Why did we kill him?" Shade looked at her for a moment. "Because he saw us." Zira stared at the body. This was war. Shade touched his ear. "Rake. Package delivered." Moving out. A crackle of static. Rake's voice. "Copy." Extraction point Delta, 10 minutes. Shade nodded once. He turned to Zira. Come on, we're not done yet. They moved fast through the station's back corridors. Shade always took the lead. Zira followed, trying to match his silent steps. She couldn't believe it. The humans moved like shadows, killed like ghosts, and they never missed. They reached the extraction point. A dark storage bay near the hangar. A sleek human shuttle hovered. Ramp open, engines low. Vex waited at the top of the ramp, her pistol drawn. Shade and Zira ran aboard. Vex gave a sharp nod. Go. The shuttle lifted off, slipping into space before the Skarn knew what happened. Inside, Zira sat against the wall, heart pounding in her chest. Shade took off his helmet, setting it beside him. His face was calm, unreadable. Zira stared at him. You killed 3 Skarn in less than a minute, she said quietly. Shade nodded. They were slow. Her eyes widened. Slow. He met her gaze. You want to survive in this galaxy? You don't fight like them. You fight like us. Zira swallowed hard. Like them. Vex sat across from her, arms crossed. Do you know why? The galaxy fears humans, Vex asked. Zira shook her head slowly. Vex leaned forward. Because we don't follow the rules. The Skarn fight by honor. The Council fights by law. Pirates fight for gold, she smirked. We fight to win. Zira stared at her. Shade spoke, voice low. The Skarn think they control this galaxy. They think they can't lose. We're going to teach them what fear feels like. Zira felt a strange fire rise inside her chest. For the first time since Valora Prime fell, she didn't feel powerless. She didn't feel like a victim. These humans, they were dangerous, ruthless, but they didn't turn away. They fought back, and maybe so could she. Vex stood. You did good today. You followed orders. You stayed quiet. That's how you live longer. Zira nodded, her hands tight around her knees. Vex gave her a sharp look. But next time, you don't freeze. You shoot. You move. You kill first. Zira met her eyes. I understand. Vex gave a small nod and walked toward the cockpit. Shade leaned back, eyes half closed. Zira looked at him. Why are you really doing this? She asked softly. Shade opened his eyes. The Skarn tried to wipe out a human colony once. A small world. No army. Just farmers. He paused. They killed everyone. Zira felt her heart ache. Shade's voice became quiet. So we killed them back. All of them. Every last ship. That's what we do. He looked at her. You want revenge? Zira whispered. Yes. Shade nodded slowly. Then you're with us. The shuttle flew through the void, silent and unseen. Behind them, the Skarn station stayed quiet. For now, but soon, everything would change. Zira looked at the stars outside the window for the first time. She wasn't afraid of the dark. The stars looked sharp and cold as the human ship slipped through deep space. Zira sat in the corner of the operations room, watching the team prepare. Shade checked his weapons. Vex stood beside him, loading data into a small device. Zira felt the knot in her chest tighten. This mission felt different. Commander Rake's voice came over the intercom. We have a contact inside the Skarn base. They will open a back way for us. Get in, grab the intel, and get out. No mistakes. Nodded to herself. Now she had trained hard since her first mission. She moved faster now. She shot straighter. She wasn't the scared girl floating in space anymore. But deep down, she still wasn't sure if she belonged with them. Vex handed her a small black chip. This will copy the data from their command console. You plug it in, you pull it out. If you see trouble, you run. No fighting. That's our job. Zira took the chip. Understood. Shade gave her a look. Stay close to me. Don't trust anyone except us. She gave a small nod. The shuttle launched, dark and silent. Heading toward the Skarn base, an old mining station hanging near a dead star. As they approached, Zero saw no guards, no ships, just empty black metal and blinking lights. The humans moved like shadows. Inside the station, the halls were cold and silent. Rust covered the walls. Lights flickered weakly. Vex whispered in Zira's ear, "Our contact is waiting at Junction 3. Zira followed them through the empty corridors. Then they saw him. A tall figure in dark Skarn armor. His helmet off, his face sharp features, gray skin, eyes like yellow ice. He stood with his hands up. "No weapons. I'm Krail," the Skarn said quietly. "I'm your way in." Zira's heart pounded. Shade didn't lower his weapon. "Why are you helping us?" Krail's lips twisted in a cold smile. "Because the Skarn are fools. They crush worlds and make enemies, including me." Zira studied his eyes. There was something strange, something she couldn't read. Vex leaned in close to Shade. "Seems too easy." Shade nodded but didn't lower his rifle. Krail spoke. Softly, "Your target is in the command room. I've cleared the guards. Go now, before they notice." Shade stared at him for a long second, then gave a short nod. "Move." They passed the Skarn trader, moving through silent corridors. Zira felt the weight of the black chip in her hand. This was it. Her mission? They reached the command room, empty. Vex locked the door. Shade stood guard. Zira moved fast to the console. Her hands shook only a little as she plugged in the chip. Data flashed across the screen. Military codes. Attack plans. Ship routes. The humans would want all of it. Zira waited. Seconds felt like hours. Finally, the chip flashed green. Done. She pulled it out and turned. "Got it." Shade nodded. "Let's move." They exited the room, moving fast down the dark hall. That's when everything went wrong. Alarms screamed. Red. Lights flashed. A cold voice echoed through the speakers. Human infiltrators detected. Lockdown initiated. Zira froze. Shade grabbed her arm. "Run." They ran. Skarn soldiers poured into the hallways. Black armor, rifles raised. The humans fired first. Silent shots. Quick kills. Zero stayed close behind Shade. They moved like shadows slipping through the confusion, but the Skarn kept coming. It was a trap. Krail's voice echoed in Zira's mind. His cold smile, his easy words. He lied. He sold them out. They turned a corner, straight into a squad of Skarn. Shade fired. 2 dropped. Vex threw a small grenade. A sharp pop, and the rest fell. "Extraction point," Vex shouted. Zira ran. Hard. Her heart thudding like a drum. They reached the hangar and stopped. A full Skarn squad stood between them and the shuttle. Zira gasped. Vex cursed under her breath. The Skarn raised their rifles. Then a single shot cracked through the air. The lead Skarn dropped, then another, and another in seconds. Half the squad fell. Shade moved forward, rifle a blur. Vex followed, covering him. Zero ducked behind a crate. Watching in shock, the humans moved. Like death itself, quick, silent, deadly, Shade's aim never missed. Every shot a kill, but the Skarn kept coming. One of them threw a grenade. Zira saw it land near Shade. Her heart stopped. Shade kicked it back, a sharp movement, and turned. The explosion rocked the room. Zira hit the floor hard. Her ears rang. When she looked up, the Skarn were down. Smoke filled the hangar. Shade stood in the middle, rifle still raised. Vex waved Zira over. "Move." They reached the shuttle. The ramp closed behind them. The engines roared. As they lifted off, Zira saw Skarn. Ships coming around the station. They had seconds. Vex shouted at the pilot, "Punch it." The shuttle shot forward, leaving the station behind. Inside, Zira sat on the floor, shaking. Shade crouched beside her. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. Vex looked at both of them. "That traitor set us up." Shade's voice was, "Like steel? Then we'll find him." Zira met Shade's eyes. This wasn't over. Krail had tried to kill them. He had betrayed them. But humans didn't forget, and they didn't forgive. Zira felt her fear burn away, replaced by something sharper. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was war, and she was ready. The ship floated silent in deep space. Inside the dark hold, Zero sat sharpening the edge of a small combat knife. Her hands moved slow, steady, a habit she had learned from Vex. Across from her, Shade cleaned his rifle. He worked in silence, his movements exact, careful, almost peaceful. Zero watched him, unable to hold her question anymore. "How do you do it?" she asked softly. Shade looked up. "Do what?" She met his cold, sharp eyes. "Never miss." Jade stared at her for a moment, then went back to his rifle. "You don't think about it," he said. "You don't blink. You don't feel. You just pulled the trigger." Zira swallowed hard. Shade slid a new power cell into the rifle with a soft click. "When I shoot, there's only one thought in my head." Zira leaned forward slightly. "What is it?" Shade glanced at her. "That if I don't, you'll kill the people I'm supposed to protect." Zira felt the words sink deep inside her chest. Protect. Was that what this was? Killing? To protect? Commander Rake's voice crackled over the intercom. "Team, we've got a location on Krail." Zira's head snapped up trail. The Skarn trader. "Who had sold them out?" Rake continued, his voice low and sharp. "He's on a station near the bleed zone. Small outpost. We move now. Quiet. Clean." Shade stood, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. Time to pay him a visit. Zira followed, her heart a slow, steady drumbeat. This wasn't a mission. It was justice. The shuttle dropped them near the station. A dark, rusting ring floating on the edge of nothing. Zira moved with Shade and Vex, silent in the dark corridors. The air smelled stale. They passed a guard. Shade fired once, a soft, sharp sound. The guard dropped without a word. They kept moving. Zira's hands didn't shake this time. She had learned inside the main chamber. They saw him. Krail stood with 2 Skarn soldiers at his side. He leaned over a console, barking orders. Shade raised his rifle. Zira whispered, "Wait, what if we question him?" Shade didn't hesitate. "We won't need to." He fired. 1 Skarn fell. The second turned too slow. A shot dropped him too. Krail spun around, eyes wide. Shade aimed at his head, but Krail ducked. Diving behind the console, an alarm blared. Vex cursed under her breath. "Trap again." Shade didn't move. His rifle stayed aimed. Not this time. Zira felt her breath catch. The door behind them burst open, Skarn soldiers pouring in. Vex fired fast, covering Shade. Zira pressed against the wall, pistol up. This was no ambush. This was a fight. Shade moved like a shadow, sliding between cover. Shooting with deadly calm, every shot hit, every target dropped. Vex fought beside him. Sharp and fast. Zira fired too. Her first Skarn fell. A single shot to the head. Her heart thud dead. She moved forward, covering Shade's flank. They reached. The console Krail wasn't there. A hatch stood open in the floor, a dark, leading below. Shade didn't speak. He dropped into the hatch. Vex followed. Zira took a deep breath and went after them. The tunnel was tight, cold, silent. They moved fast, their footsteps soft against the metal. Zira's heart pounded in her ears. Ahead, a door. Shade kicked it open. Inside Krail stood, alone, a weapon in his hand. He pointed it at Zira. She froze. "Move, and she dies," Krail growled. Shade didn't blink. His rifle stayed steady. Vex moved slow, aiming her pistol. Krail sneered. "You humans. Killers. Thieves. You think you're better?" Shade spoke softly. "No, just faster." He fired. The bullet hit Krail's hand, clean, sharp. The weapon fell. Before Krail could scream, Shade was on him. One hard punch dropped the Skarn to his knees. Vex grabbed him, slamming him against the wall. "Why did you betray us?" she hissed. Krail coughed, blood on his lips. "You're a threat to everyone, the Skarn, the Council, even the pirates. They all want you dead." Shade stared at him, eyes cold. They can try. He aimed his rifle. Zero stepped forward. Wait. What did you mean? Krail's eyes met hers. You think they'll let humans rise? You're monsters. You'll tear the galaxy apart. They'll wipe you out before you wipe out them. Zira felt a chill crawl down her back. Was that why no one had answered her call for help? Not fear of the Skarn, but fear of humans? Shade fired. The shot ended, Krail's words forever. Vex turned away. Let's go. Zero followed, her mind spinning. They reached the extraction point, the shuttle hovering. Engines hot. As they lifted off, Shade sat beside her. She looked at him. Krail said, "The galaxy fears humans." Shade didn't deny it. Good. Zira frowned. Why? Shade met her eyes. Because fear keeps us alive. Zira stared out the window. Maybe that's what the galaxy needed. To fear them, to fear her. Because this time, she wasn't running. This time, they would be the ones afraid. The warship floated in the shadows of a dead moon. Its hull was black as the void, its engines silent. Inside, Zero stood with Commander Rake, Shade, and Vex, staring at a large HOLO- screen. On the screen was a face she didn't expect. Not Skarn, not HL. Human. Azaran tall, silver-skinned, with glowing eyes like ice. The Zarans were older than the Skarn Empire. Older than the Council, a race so dangerous most species pretended they didn't exist. And now, one of them spoke to Rake. "You are the humans who killed Krail," the Zaran said. His voice sounded like wind through steel. Rake didn't blink. "We are." Zero glanced at Shade, who stood silent, eyes sharp. The Zeron leaned forward slightly. "We have a common enemy, Skarn." Vex folded her arms. "Why would you care?" Zeron's lips twitched in something close to a smile. "Because the Skarn are fools, and they will destroy this galaxy. Before we are ready to rule it," Zero felt a chill. "Ready to rule it?" Rake's voice was calm. "You want an alliance?" The Zeran gave a slow nod. "We offer you information, access. You will strike the Skarn, where we cannot. In return, we will look the other way when you destroy them." Shade spoke, voice low. "And when we're done with the Skarn?" The Zeran's smile faded. "Then we will speak." Again, the screen went dark. Zira let out a slow breath she didn't know she was holding. Rake turned to them. "This changes nothing. We take the intel. We hit the Skarn, then we disappear. Before the Zerans decide to betray us." Vex shook her head. "If they're using us, they'll stab us in the back." Rake gave a cold smile. "Then we stabbed first." Shade glanced at Zira. "You good?" She nodded slowly, but inside. She wasn't sure. They were making deals with monsters now. How far would they go? The next mission came fast. The target, a Skarn weapons depot in deep space, guarded by Skarn troops. And now, Zeron agents. The humans moved first. Zira slipped into the base with Vex, planting charges. Shade covered them from above, silent and deadly. It should have been easy, but nothing was easy anymore. As they moved through the dark halls, a sharp voice cut through their comms. "Abort! The Zarans double-crossed us. It's a trap." Zara froze. Behind them, doors slammed shut. The lights flickered. Vex cursed. "Move!" They ran. Zeran hunters stepped from the shadows, tall, armored in dark silver, its weapons glowing blue. They moved faster than Skarn. Silent, precise. Zira fired first. The hunter dodged. Blades flashing. Vex shot him in the head. He dropped like a stone. "Keep moving," Vex shouted. Zira ran, heart hammering. She heard Shade's voice in her ear. "I'm coming to you. Hold on." The Zerons kept coming. Zero turned a corner. A hunter lunged. She fired point blank. He dropped. Another grabbed her arm. She twisted, stabbed with her knife, deep under the armor. The hunter hissed and fell. Her heart raced. Vex covered her, blasting two more. Then Shade arrived, his rifle snapping shots like lightning. Together they fought through the hall. bodies falling behind them. They reached the exit hatch. Vex slammed it open. The shuttle hovered outside. Rake stood on the ramp. Fool. Up. Move. They dove inside. The ramp closed. As they lifted off, explosions tore through the base that Charge's Vex had planted. Still worked. Inside the shuttle, Zero sat on the floor. Catching her breath, Shade sat beside her, wiping blood from his glove. Rake stood near the door, watching the firestorm outside. Vex leaned against the wall, shaking her head. We can't trust anyone. Not the Council. Not the Zerons. Not even the pirates. Rake gave a slow nod. Good. Zero looked at him, confused. Good. Rake turned, his eyes hard as steel, because now we know we're alone. Zero met Shade's eyes dot alone. But maybe that's how it had to be. If the galaxy wanted to fear humans, it was about to learn why. Zero sat alone in the armory, staring at the pistol in her hands. The soft hum of the human warship echoed around her. For the first time, she wasn't waiting for orders. She wasn't waiting for someone to save her. Not anymore. Vex entered the room, her boots soft on the metal floor. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. You're thinking too much, Vex said. Zero looked up. Am I? Vex shrugged. Thinking gets you killed. Moving saves you. Zero gave a small smile. I used to run. I ran from the Scarn. I ran from death. I even ran from myself. Vex tilted her head. And now? Zero stood, sliding the pistol into her holster. Now, I stop running. Vex gave a rare smile, a small one, sharp as a knife. Good. About time. The mission came faster than Zero expected. Commander Rake called them to the war room. The holomap showed a Scarn. Dreadnought, a massive warship floating near the border of human space. Rake pointed at it. This is it. The Scarn are preparing to strike. If they hit our worlds, it's over. Shade stood beside him, silent as always. Vex tapped the screen. That ship's crawling with soldiers. Rake gave a cold smile. Then we kill them all. Us. At the image, a year ago, she would have said this was suicide now. It felt right. They suited up in silence. No speeches. No promises. They moved like one. The shuttle dropped them onto the dreadnought's hull in the dead of night. No alarms. No lights. They cut through the outer hatch, silent and fast. Inside, the ship was a steel maze. They moved like ghosts. Shade took point, rifle in hand. Vex covered the rear. Syrah stayed close, her heart steady. The first patrol they met, gone in seconds. Shade didn't miss. Vex didn't blink, and Zira didn't hesitate. They reached the core, a massive chamber glowing red. The heart of the Scarn war machine. Shade planted the charges. Vex kept watch. Zira watched the timer blink. 5 minutes. That's all they needed. Then the trap sprung. Sirens screamed. Doors slammed. Scarn soldiers poured in more than Zira had. Ever seen Rake's voice crackled over the cum? Change of plan. Fight your way out. Zira felt a calm wash over her. No more running. She drew her pistol. Vex fired first. Dropping 3 soldiers, Shade moved like smoke, his shots silent, deadly. Zira followed. Every shot counting, they fought through the hallways. Step by step, the Scarn fell. The humans didn't stop. Zira took a shot to the arm, pain shot through her, but she didn't fall. Vex pulled her behind cover. You good? Zira gritted her teeth. I'm fine. They pushed forward. Shade led them into a narrow service hall. Scarn blocked the way. Shade moved without fear. 1 shot. 2, 3, and the way cleared. Zira followed him, blood on her sleeve, eyes sharp. They reached the shuttle dock. The extraction ship waited. Engines hot. Rake stood on the ramp, covering them. Move. They ran. The dreadnought shook beneath them, the charges exploding deep inside. Fire filled the air. They dove into the shuttle. The ramp closed. The engines roared as they lifted off. The Skarn dreadnought split apart behind them, flames tearing. Through its hole, inside the shuttle, Zira sat beside Shade, blood on her arm, heart pounding. Vex dropped beside her, checking her wound. "You'll live." Zira gave a weak smile. Shade met her eyes. "You didn't run." Zira shook her head. "Not anymore." The war wasn't over. The Skarn were still out there. The council still silent. The Dzaran still lurking. But for the first time, Zara wasn't afraid. She wasn't running. She was fighting, and now they would all know her name. The human fleet gathered at the edge of the dark zone, a place where the stars seemed dead and the void swallowed everything. Zero stood on the deck of the warship Black Vow, watching his ships lined up in silent formation. This was it, the final strike. Beside her, Commander Rake gave orders with a voice as cold as steel. Vex checked her weapons. Shade stood silent, his rifle resting at his side. Zero felt the weight of everything pressing on her, the years of running, fighting, killing. Now, it was all leading here. The Skarn had gathered their full fleet. 50 warships, enough to crush entire systems. They thought the humans would hide. They thought Zero would run. They were wrong. Rake spoke into the com. "All units move." The fleet advanced. Zira took her place on the lead shuttle. Shade sat across from her, silent. Vex loaded her rifle. Rake stood by the door, calm. Zira checked her pistol, the blade on her belt, the tiny tracking device in her vest, the one that carried the data they needed. This was more than revenge. This was a message. They hit the Skarn flagship first. The battle was chaos. Ships firing. Fighters swarming. Zero moved with Shade and Vex. Through the burning corridors of the enemy ship, no hesitation, no fear. They fought like shadows. Every Skarn who crossed their path fell. Zira shot without blinking. When the Skarn commander fell at her feet, she didn't flinch. Shade planted the charges in the heart of the ship. Vex hacked the command core, sending their final message across every Skarn channel. Zira stood before the camera, her voice steady. "You wanted fear? You wanted war. Now, you have both. The humans are here. And we're done running." She ended the message. Herself, the charges exploded behind them. They escaped on a shuttle seconds before the flagship tore apart. The Skarn fleet scattered. The human fleet chased them, cutting through their lines. For the first time, the Skarn ran. The battle ended in hours. But the war was over. Zero stood on the deck, watching the enemy ships burn in the distance. Rake joined her. "You did it." Zero shook her head. "We did it." He gave a rare smile. Shade approached, standing beside them. Vex leaned on the rail, arms crossed. For the first time, they weren't just shadows, they were legends. Zero looked out at the stars. The Skarn Empire defeated the Council. Silent, the Zerons. Watching from the dark, and the humans. Free, because they fought. Because they refused to run. Because of her, Rake spoke quietly. "The galaxy will remember your name." Zero gave a soft smile. "Good," she turned, walking toward the future they had earned. No more hiding. No more fear. The girl who sent a desperate signal into the void was gone. Now, she was the answer, and the galaxy would never forget.